Identity is often assumed to emerge through agreement, through recognition, validation, and shared understanding. But some identities take shape without those conditions. They are maintained through routine, defended through explanation, and sustained through repetition rather than proof. Not because they are shared, but because they are insisted upon. When this occurs, systems respond cautiously. Observation replaces intervention. Documentation stands in for resolution. Boundaries are tested not through confrontation, but through persistence. What follows is a case in which conviction outlasts correction, where belief remains intact regardless of response. The question is not how such identities begin, but how long they are allowed to continue and what quietly shifts when they do.
Here we aim to provide a comprehensive analysis of Laszlo Paul Ortega, who has filed multiple petitions with local and federal agencies seeking official recognition as a merman, also known as a mermaid. We'll refer to the individual as a mermaid for the rest of this story. The report dives into Laszlo's peculiar antics, the colorful reactions from the public, and the unpredictable aftermath that followed. Laszlo, age 34, currently resides in his parents' basement in suburban New Jersey. This living arrangement is not due to economic necessity, but rather a strategic decision. By eliminating rent obligations, Laszlo allocates approximately 92% of his disposable income towards items essential to his perceived aquatic identity: custom mermaid tails, industrial-grade blue body paint, and bi-weekly excursions to beaches, lakes, and municipal pools. His day-to-day activities primarily involve extended periods of what he refers to as meditative oceanic projection. During these sessions, Laszlo reclines on a cushioned lounge chair, dons his mermaid tail, and imagines himself navigating the ocean's depths. Witnesses, primarily his parents, have observed him making dolphin-like clicking noises, punctuated by guttural whale calls, which he insists are part of an ancient aquatic dialect understood only by marine mammals. Laszlo's lifestyle has attracted significant public attention, often culminating in colorful altercations. Notably, he views dolphins as his primary rivals, frequently criticizing their smug intelligence and performative acrobatics as deliberate attempts to upstage him. In contrast, he holds whales in the highest regard, revering them as the noble elders of the sea, wise and dignified, much like the elephants of the Sahara who carry the weight of ancient knowledge across generations. Several confrontations have arisen when bystanders mock or photograph Laszlo without consent during his beachside rituals. According to police records, there have been no fewer than 17 altercations over a 2-year period, typically initiated when Laszlo interprets laughter as an act of maritime aggression. In each case, he has defended his actions as necessary to maintain the honor of the merfolk. On one such excursion, Laszlo was sunbathing on a large coastal rock while modeling his latest creation, a navy blue and turquoise sequin tail that had taken him over 6 months to sew by hand. It was the first time he had worn it in public. As he lay there, eyes closed and arms extended, he heard the faint sound of a child giggling nearby. Before he could sit up, a heavy wet bundle of kelp was hurled at him, landing squarely on his left knee. When he peeled it away, he discovered a dark brown-green stain had bled into the sequins. A stain that, given the tail's delicate fabric and photographic importance, rendered the garment visibly ruined. He had not yet taken a single modeling shot with it on. Infuriated, Laszlo screamed in the direction of the child, who had already begun to retreat, laughing. He continued shouting until 2 older boys, identified as the young child's brothers, approached, asking what the problem was. Laszlo explained the situation with escalating intensity and declared that no one was permitted to leave the area, as he was phoning the authorities. The older boys, visibly unsettled, apologized and explained that the child was only 6 and didn't understand the significance of what he had done. They then offered Laszlo 2 crumpled-up dollar bills and a partially eaten ice cream sandwich in a show of remorse, the only items of value they claimed to possess. Laszlo stared at the offerings in disbelief. The suggestion that a defiled tail could be compensated with melted dessert and loose bills struck him as nothing short of blasphemy. When he tried to stand up, the mermaid tail constricted his legs so tightly that he tripped and fell sideways into the sand. The three boys fled the scene. In another escalated incident, Laszlo attempted to initiate what he called a trial by water, a supposed mermaid tradition of resolving disputes by dragging the adversary into the ocean, whether they were human, shark, dolphin, or sea otter. Earlier that afternoon, he had confronted a group of sunbathers over what he claimed was unauthorized territorial splashing. Laszlo demanded they cease their noisy water play or face the consequences. When the group laughed and refused to take him seriously, Laszlo picked up one of their tablet devices and theatrically tossed it into the surf, declaring it a warning shot. The tension escalated quickly as onlookers debated whether Laszlo was harmless, eccentric, or a danger to public safety. Lifeguards quickly intervened and escorted him off the beach. Laszlo continues to contest the removal, claiming it was an act of species-based discrimination. Despite the lifeguards' efforts to keep him on dry land, Laszlo remained undeterred in his pursuit of mermaid customs. He believed that meaningful interaction with the ocean's creatures required patience and the right timing. Specifically, the quiet hours after 2 a.m., when the world above water fell silent. Every night, dressed head to fin in his shimmering mermaid suit, he would wade down to the shore armed with a megaphone. There, under the moonlight, he'd mimic dolphin clicks, whale songs, and the chittering calls of sea otters, convinced that the ocean's residents were listening. This nocturnal ritual did not sit well with the upscale beachfront community. The residents, who prized their sleep and serenity above all else, found Laszlo's midnight performances intolerable. Calls to the police became routine, yet each time officers arrived, Laszlo evaded capture by diving into the surf with his snorkel, disappearing beneath the waves like a myth come to life. His muffled calls to his friends of the deep echoed faintly as he slipped away, leaving behind a mixture of frustration and bemusement on the shore. The local news had caught wind of Laszlo's increasingly bizarre antics and decided to send a reporter to get the story straight from the beach. On the day of the interview, Laszlo was already in his element, waiting in the shallow surf, arms flailing dramatically as he demanded that a group of jet skiers vacate the area. According to Laszlo, their noisy machines were disturbing the dolphins, one of whom he'd apparently challenged to a wrestling match just moments before. The reporter, determined to capture the spectacle, called out loudly to get Laszlo's attention. After some effort, Laszlo agreed to an exclusive live interview for the evening news. For maximum effect, the camera started rolling well before Laszlo emerged from the water. But just as he approached, still fully clad in his shimmering mermaid costume, he abruptly spun around and whipped his tail sharply, sending a splash of seawater straight at the reporter and cameraman. A piercing shriek filled the air, and the feed abruptly cut back to the stunned news anchors in the studio. The final image on screen was Laszlo, flipping the bird with one hand while maintaining perfect fin form with the other. Laszlo even tries to bring his mermaid world to landlocked places like public pools. His grand entrance, complete with vivid blue body paint and a shimmering tail, often strikes chaos. Small children, wide-eyed and frightened by the unfamiliar sight, scatter in panicked screams. Parents rush to gather their little ones, whispering reassurances as Laszlo strikes exaggerated poses by the poolside, undeterred. Despite the commotion, Laszlo basks quietly in the knowledge that some believe, if only for a moment, that the mythical mermaid is real. That fleeting suspension of disbelief, the intersection across fantasy, mythology, and reality, is exactly the satisfaction he seeks. Laszlo continues his aquatic lifestyle. He has largely ceased engaging in physical altercations, instead focusing on mermaid diplomacy. This involves mailing handwritten letters, decorated with seashell stickers, to marine conservation organizations, urging them to consider the merfolk perspective. This case serves as a profound, albeit perplexing, reflection on identity and the fluidity of human self-perception. In a world increasingly defined by rigid classifications, perhaps the ocean, vast, deep, and indifferent, offers the most appropriate metaphor for the complexities of existence. Or, as Laszlo succinctly put it in his closing statement on Facebook, In the end, aren't we all just tides, pulled by forces we can't see?